I'm in the Barnes Pipe and Supply office. Scott Barnes.
Randy, good to see you.
Thanks for sitting down. We're just doing these video archives. I just got finished talking to your pops. When did you start in the pipe business? What year was it, and what company did you start with?
I started in 1984 at Valley Steel Products Company in downtown St. Louis, Missouri.
And was your dad working there at the time?
Yeah, my dad was VP of sales at the time. So I was working as a welder at the shipyards, and the shipyard shut down. And Pops wanted me to come into sales, and I was always kind of an outside guy, and I just couldn't see myself sitting behind a desk. And he said, you might think that outdoor stuff's fun now, but when you're 50 years old, it won't be. So you need to come in and try sales. So I was a young guy, just married, had a couple little ones. I needed to make some money, so he sat me at a desk with a Rolodex and said, start making calls, and that's what I did.
How old were you?
Oh God, how was I? You're making me do math, Randy.
Yeah.
I was 26, 27, I guess.
Sure.
In that neighborhood, so.
Okay. And how long did you work at Valley Steel?
I worked at Valley Steel about 2 years. Dad had always wanted to start his own business and decided to do that. And when he started his own business, they fired me, and I had to go with Pops. So that's how we first got started with his first own business.
And that company name?
That was Scott Supply Company.
1T.
1T.
What's that?
Yeah, it wasn't named after me. It was named after like Scott, like the Scottish, like thrifty, frugal, I think is what that meant. Everybody thought it was named after me, and it sounded good, but it was not named after me. Right, 1T.
Yeah, and that was your dad and
my dad and Bud Long, who Bud Long came from back in the Lally pipe days, I believe.
That was about 1986, 1987.
Right, correct.
And so you were only in the pipe business a couple of years, and you went over and joined them,
right?
Scott?
Went over and joined them, and at that time I started doing pretty well. Got to learn the lingo and what pipe was all about, and just worked hard. I mean, commission sales always intrigued me because it was like, you mean I can make as much money as I want? And that just always really excited me. I'm thinking, the more calls I make, the more money I make. And it took a while to figure that out. Got quite a few commission checks with big zeros on it. So, and when you're raising a family, it was scary. My wife was a nurse at the time, so we were able to get by. But it took quite a few years to really start making decent money.
Yeah.
But It was a good time. It was a good start. I was working with my dad every day, so I was pretty lucky.
And how long was it Scott Supply, or how long did that happen before
Scott Supply
into Barnes?
Scott Supply only lasted about 4 years. I would call it a bad marriage. My dad's partner and I didn't get along very well. I put some good deals together, and he'd always have to stick his nose in it and mess it up, and it used to just piss me off, to be honest with you. So they decided, they didn't really decide it. It was going pretty well. We were selling a lot of pipe. And at that time we were with LaSalle National Bank, and the bank just came in and basically just called their loan, so they don't want to be in the pipe business anymore. So we were like, well, what do we do? So Dad stayed back and helped Bud shut down Scott Supply. And this was in 1990. I came over, I incorporated myself as James Scott Barnes Incorporated in 1990. I think that cost me $46 to do that. I still have the plaque hanging on the wall. And I basically worked a year by myself, well, with Pops, but Pops was, winding down the other part of the business and getting all their debts paid and everything over there. And so once Dad got that all settled down, he came over with me. And then it was James Scott Barnes, Inc., doing business as Barnes Pipe and Steel. And we started in 1990. We didn't have any money. We did not have money. It was just Dad and I. But we had a lot of friends in the business, and we relied on our friends. We had the customers, and we call it integrity financing. You've got our word. We'll pay you for this pipe. It was kind of, we'll pay you when we get paid. But we had some good deals, good customers, and we had good vendors. So that's how we got started.
And so that early part of Barnes Pipe and Supply, you said it was just you and your pops.
Correct.
And you guys were just in an office somewhere?
Yep. I was in the middle of rehabbing an old building down in the city, and we turned that into our first office. And then we started making, doing pretty well, getting busy. We would flip a coin on Fridays to see who did the filing, because by the end of the week we had stacks of paperwork to file. So that was kind of fun. And then we ended up moving out here into the county where we lived, and we hired a young girl to work the phones through Oakville High School. It was a co-op program where they go to school half day, work half day.
What was her name?
Christy Brennicky, and she was 16 years old at the time, and she's still with us to this day. And now she's in sales, and she's doing very well.
That's a great story.
Yeah, it really is.
So when did you guys start hiring salespeople?
Oh, it took a couple years. My brother-in-law, Jerry, worked for us, and he came over with us for a while. And Jerry just didn't get the sales thing. He just wasn't cut out for it, which, this isn't for everybody. It's, you don't make money unless you sell something. So you really got to work hard, and some people work hard and some people don't. So it was pretty much just me, Dad, and Christy for a couple years. And then slowly over the years, we started making a little money. We needed an accountant, so we hired an accountant. Phil Reichert was his name. He was at Valley Steel. Man, I'd have to, if I can remember all the salespeople. It just over the years we just added people.
And still down at that downtown location, downtown St. Louis.
Yes, we were at the Southside National Bank building on the corner of Grand and Gravois, and it was a nice old Dutch neighborhood. And you sure wouldn't want to go down there today during the day, I'll tell you, or night. So it's really changed, but we were in the top floor, and it was a nice view of the city, and the rent was cheap, and
that was the early 90s.
That was the early 90s.
Okay. And you eventually ended up moving out to where we're at today.
Well, we moved out into South County, and we had a sales office. And we always had outside storage yards. We never owned our own yard. Well, my father lived over here in Columbia, Illinois. And he came in one day and he said, there's an industrial park 2 miles from my house, and there's a building and some property for sale. And we had toyed with talking about, boy, wouldn't it be nice to have our own yard so we have our own control, and if we want to paint something and have it out the same day, we can do it. We don't have to rely on somebody else to do it. We'll get to it next week. And it sounded like a good idea. So the gentleman we bought the property from was going through a nasty divorce, and we made a hell of a deal, and we decided to do it. So we bought this 6 acres and building. The one we're sitting in today in Dupo, Illinois. And that's how we got our start. It's been a lot of growing pains. It takes a lot of money. Over the years, you have to buy equipment and forklifts and welders. And, we went from, I was unloading trucks by myself. We bought our first Cat 908, and I was unloading trucks when they came in, and we went from doing a truck a day to now we can do, 10, 12 trucks a day. And we went from, a couple people to now we have 12 guys out in the yard. We have 26 employees. So it's been a fun ride. It's not easy. it takes a lot of time, energy, it takes a lot of money to run a business.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks it's easy. It's not. But it's fun. It's a fun business.
What are some of the more memorable changes that you've witnessed, in your 35 plus years in the business that kind of stand out?
Wow. That's a tough question. Some of the biggest changes, it's the biggest change I see is at some of the mills. Some of the mills are starting to go direct to customers, I find. It's you got to work harder to keep customers. There's a lot of competition out there. You really got to rely on relationships, I feel. That's probably the biggest change. I mean, it's a piece of pipe is still a piece of pipe. 30 years ago or today, it's still made the same. It's still made on the same mills. I mean, pipe hasn't changed. It's, I guess, how you sell it nowadays. It's email and Twitter, and people hide behind that. It's still fun to get on the phone and talk to people. It's like you and I. We've known each other 30 years, so that's a relationship. So that's what I see the biggest change.
Right, where it's gone to the digital age.
Right.
Versus the people to people. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think people to people is still the most important part of our business.
Yeah. So would you, if there was a pivotal or defining moment that impacted you, would it be, getting fired at Valley Steel, or would it be when you and Pops really just decided to do or is there something
I never envisioned growing up I'd have my own company. Never even would have thought that. I went to college. I didn't do well at college. I just finally told my dad, I said, I went to 1 year of college. I said, Pops, I said, I'm wasting my time and I'm wasting your money. I go, college just isn't for me. I just didn't apply myself. I wanted to get out in the world and make money. Never thought I'd be sitting behind a desk, selling pipe. But once you get a taste of it, once you start making some money, a pivotal thing's when you get that first big project and you see the numbers, and as you go through life like we have, it's just more zeros. It's no different, and over the years we've had a good banking relationship's important. I'm with the same bank that I was with when I was 16 years old. I've had a bank account there ever since. So it's been good. It's been fun.
What was there a lowest point in your pipe career, or the toughest time that you might be able to recall?
Toughest time was getting burned for $265,000 from a customer up in Minnesota. It was a big gentleman's name was David Coons. Just had a big scam going. Gave us false bank information. Really a good scammer, and he got quite a few people. State of Minnesota, a couple other customers, and we all got together and put him in jail. But I got a judgment. I have it framed, hanging in my office for that $264,000, and I'll never see a penny. But that's probably because that would have put my 4 kids through college. So that really burned me. Took me quite a few years to build that back up, because that came right out of me and Pop's pocket. So that one hurt. And I'll find him someday.
Scott, thank you for sharing that. That's not an easy.
No, it's you got to learn from those hits.
Yeah, that's right. If you were bringing, and I know you're bringing on younger people and the newer generation. What do you tell the young people in regards to what it takes, whether it be in regards to the work ethic or integrity, or what do you tell your young guys what is it going to take to be successful in the steel pipe business?
Well, I tell you, it takes hard work. You got to get to work early. You got to get on the phone. You have to beat these phones. It's hard to do. It's not for everybody. It's hard to get on a phone when you're a young guy. You might make 100 calls a day and you might get 99 no's, but it just takes one yes to make some money. In this business, you can make $1,000 a truckload. You can make $10,000 a truckload. It can happen. Once you get a taste of that, you don't mind getting those no's, but it takes time. It takes hard work. And like my dad said, you have to get that. You got to get it in your belly. You got to have that drive to do it. And it just takes a lot of phone calls, and you just have to work hard every day.
Sure.
That's what it takes.
My next question is asking about, somebody that may have been a mentor in your business and for you personally. Obviously, we can talk about Pops. I mean, Jim Barnes is an obvious go-to. Was there somebody else other than
Wayne Koppel?
Oh my God!
Yeah, Wayne Koppel worked at Valley Steel, and that's who my dad had trained me. And Wayne went on to start his very successful company, and then his son and son-in-law are both still in the business. I think he sold his business, but he's still in it. I think part-time. They're in American Piping now. But Wayne taught me a lot. I sat right next to him, and if Wayne heard me make a mistake or say something I should have, he'd set me aside and say, "Hey, you should have said this, you should have said that." And it's trial and error. When somebody just sits you a phone and hands you a Rolodex, here, call these people. What do I say? What do I do? Just talk to them. When you talk to your friend, how do you talk to your friends? And it's very true when you come in like we do nowadays. You're calling on customers like I would call on you. It's like calling a friend. And it gets to be like that once you get a relationship built up. Back to this, relationships are so important. So Wayne was my first mentor because he's the first one I know. Earl Cohen, my dad's old friend, was a big mentor. I could always call Earl for advice. I got another old friend. They're all old friends of Dad's because they would call looking for Pops, and he wasn't here. I talked to him. Dad's old friend Gigi Ross at U.S. Steel. She was very helpful. Mike Dim from Pipe and Piling is another gentleman that you could just call and ask advice, and they would give it to you. So those are some of the few I can remember.
Fantastic, thanks. Want to talk a little bit about the NASPD.
Okay.
You have been attending some of the conventions and conferences for years. Because I've seen you there.
Yeah, I've been there. We've been there.
We've been there, and I just wanted to know if if you have a memorable spot or a memorable convention or location or.
My favorite meeting was in Cancun, but Susan doesn't like to go to those places because nobody attends the meetings. And my thoughts were, to hell with those meetings once in a while. Because it seems like when you go to those meetings, it's the socializing around the pool and that happy hour Thursdays and all that. That's when everybody's around. They're mingling. They're having fun. Everybody kind of breaks off and goes to their dinner thing. I get some things out of the meetings. Over the years, it was all started by the structural guys. And it seems like now there's too many traders and importers and guys like that I don't have anything to do with. So I don't like that part of it, but it's so fun just to get together and see everybody. But I wish they would go to, every once in a while, like every other year, go to an exotic place like the Bahamas or Cancun. Or a lot of people attend it. There won't be a lot of people at the meetings, but a lot of people show up. San Diego was beautiful. Nancy and I come, we try to make a little bit of a vacation too, but it's great to see everybody. There's a lot of good people in the organization.
Yeah, I totally agree. Any special friends that you always seem to gravitate towards when you go to the NASPD?
Well, you're one of them. I always see you there. But oh man, Joe Bergfeld's a character. Greg Semmel. There's many. One of my good friends, Tom Connor, is one of my best friends in the business. Tom's been there forever. Man, there's just so many. They're all good people, friendly. Of course, all the mill reps and a lot of people.
Yeah, fantastic. Before we start getting down to the last few questions, I want to be sure and ask you, besides your steel pipe career, what are you most proud of? And what gives you the most joy and satisfaction?
Oh, well, I've got both my boys working here now. My son Jimmy got his degree in business, but after a couple months in the office, he just said, "Pops," he said, "I can't do this. I can't sit behind a desk." And it reminded me so much of myself. I get it. He's now out in the shops, probably one of the best welders. My son Jeffrey is in sales. Big learning curve. These kids nowadays, they don't have the work ethic that a lot of us grew up with, and you got to beat them every day to get on the phone, but you show them what can happen, what you can do. This can all be yours someday. Working with my pops is by far, I've worked with my dad every day since early 80s. And that just means a lot to me. He comes in every day. He's got a great attitude. He just enjoys work. I will never work that long, ever. But it's his life. My dad comes in, and this is where all his friends are. My dad's outlived all his friends. And his friends now he comes in, gets on the phone, and calls his customers. Like I said, relationship, that's all his friends. So that's why I think Pops will probably pass away behind his desk, and that's okay. If that's what he wants to do, we enjoy having him every day. So, but yeah, working with Dad every day is probably the highlight of my life. And then, I look back, I'm like, wow, I own all this. Some days I wish I didn't. But on the good days, it's pretty neat to come and see your name on the wall and say, "Wow, I've built that." So that's what we're proud of.
Yeah, we got a lot of satisfaction there.
Very much so.
And you've done a great job with it. You're well respected in the industry.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. The final question I have for you, Scott, is there anything I forgot to ask you? Anything that you may want to tell me about? Even advice for you young guys coming up. Is there anything that I may have done?
One other thing, I tell you, it's more and more people should get into this business. I've got a couple salespeople that are getting a little long in the tooth, and I would bring in a couple young salesmen, but it's hard to do. I find it's hard to find the time to train them. I'm very busy. Just like I like to get to more and more of the meetings, it's hard to find time. I'm still the majority of the sales here, which I'm trying to pass that on down to people. But I think if younger people would just look at it, it's a hell of a business to get into. It's fun. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to sell pipe. It's a piece of pipe, or if you were in the lumber business, it's a piece of lumber. It's a 2x4 or a 4-inch piece of pipe. It's not hard. There's a little bit of technology to it, but I'd have to say that I'd like to see more people get into it. It's a good living. It really is. I've raised 4 kids through college, a couple weddings. So thank God business has been good.
Yeah.
So, but I appreciate you coming to see us. I appreciate you interviewing Pops, and it's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too, Scotty. I really have gotten a kick out of meeting up with everybody and doing this project. So I appreciate the time.
Yeah, well, good luck to you. I think it's neat what you're doing. It's neat to go see all the old guys, and boy, they've got some stories.
Yeah.
They really do. Just like you and I have some stories, and the next generation will have stories. But I tell you, if you get to any of these meetings, if you can get those old guys in a group, get a couple Brandy Manhattans in them, they've got some funny stories.
Yeah.
They really do. So we need to try to do that more.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, man.
Friend.
Thanks, Randy.
Scotty. All right.
Thanks, buddy.
You got it.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.